I'm gonna throw a curveball question at you. You do jujitsu, don't you?
I do. I've been doing it
How
for a
long?
long time.
How long have you been doing it?
I mean, it's sporadic in my training, but I started in 2009.
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 20 years, but not also in like
Yeah,
pandemics
I
and
got a purple belt in
surgeries.
2000. Yeah, I got purple belt in 2017 to put it in perspective. And I'm still a purple belt, so
Okay, okay, cool. So
yeah.
why do you? I ask for a reason. So why
Yep.
do you think it is that? Oh, and read if you can find the paper. I published it in Radical Pedagogy, but I think that the journal went down. It's about applying jujitsu style pedagogy to critical thinking techniques. Why do you think it is that so many people who value or in the space that we're in value critical thinking, reasoning, truth? And I'm not saying it's ubiquitous. I'm not saying everybody
Mhm.
who does
Mhm.
this goes into jiu-jitsu, and I'm not saying everybody who doesn't value these things d- can't go into jiu-jitsu. But why do you think it is so many people in this space do jiu-jitsu and DMT? That's a conversation for another day. But why do you think that is?
They're actually kind of similar. It does break your sense of reality. You know, I mean, there's a guy I'm at John Jack Machado's now, which is incredible.
Oh
And
my
there's
God, are you really? Where?
yeah, yeah, it's right up the street from my house at Woodland Hills. It's in the valley of Los Angeles. When you're in LA, let's go. Um,
Oh, Mark Pellegrino, does he train there?
he
He trains
doesn't
with the
know. I mean,
Machados. Or
um,
John Jacques Machado, and maybe he trains with him in Florida. But
maybe.
anyway, so go
There's a
ahead.
bunch
Yeah,
of
yeah.
stories. You're confronted with a reality that you didn't even know existed. We have a guy. I mentioned that just because we have a guy there who just got his black belt, Steve O, who's 128 pounds. And if you take any big guy, 220-pound, athletic guy, and you're like, could you hold this guy down in one spot? And he's like, yeah. Like, well, what certainty do you have that you could do that? 100% certainty. 100% certain. They would say 100%. And then they would get on the mat. They wouldn't be able to hold him down at all, and they would get choked out by this guy. He'd crawl around to his back, he'd arm drag him or something, and he'd choke him out like a chimp or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it would shatter their understanding of what reality is. And I think DMT does that too. I think you have to get humbled. I think the humility that comes in jujitsu, there isn't a single guy who's ever gotten a black belt or been doing jujitsu for a while that didn't get tremendously humbled, tremendously.
Oh my God,
And
it's not possible.
psychedelics do. Psychedelics do that too. So I think it's the humbling experience of what's right, what up is, what down is. I think that jujitsu, I think psychedelics, I think anything that can do that to you, and you have that that whatever red pill experience, then you start going, well, what else am I certain of that might also not be true, and it opens you up to that. That's what I believe it to be.
Yeah, just so I forget. So my daughter is 100 pounds, and we just rolled last night, and she just got her third stripe on her white belt. She's doing great. She's fantastic. She's working on transitions, but that weight disparity, I'm like 170. I mean, that
Yeah,
weight disparity. So if you could send me some videos of that guy, if there are any videos of the
I will.
120 guy, I'd really
Oh
appreciate
yeah.
that. Okay, so um, I'm trying not to fall down the DMT rabbit hole because I could, but those connections that you made are really, really interesting. So just as an aside, so many years
Yeah.
ago, I was at Costco, and you know how they look at your I don't have you ever been to Costco? But anyway,
Yeah.
they make you put your membership card first, and I used to always forget. So as a just a little way to help me remember, I would flip up the divider and I would put my card on on the little divider, and I would put that in my credit card there.
Okay.
And one time I did that, and a guy picked up my card, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, that's my card." And he said, "No, it's not." And I was totally blown away by that. I was completely flabbergasted by it. So the way that he like if that were me, I would have just looked at the card.
Your picture's on it.
No, I know it takes
Yeah.
it's a tenth of a second to verify it,
Yeah.
like this. Done.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Yeah.
half a
Yeah.
second. Okay, half a
But
second. Done.
he was certain that it was his.
Well, it made me think that this could not possibly be a one-off. That this
Mm.
guy has to live his life in so many other ways like this with a kind of habituatized, if that's a word, certainty about how he walks through life. Like, like you don't find those isolated instances like that.
No, no, but if you have just one or two profound experiences Like, I don't know. And then when he realized that it was his card, like, how much did
No, it was
he
my card.
I'm sorry, yes, yeah, when we realized it was your card, how much did he really process that? And how much did he
Oh,
go, "Oh my gosh, I was so certain," like, how much, or did he just move on and go on about his life?
that's a
And I
great
think,
that's
yeah,
so important. No, finish it, because
yeah.
that's so important what you just said.
Because yeah, so if it depends, because he could just skirt over that one. That's easier to be ignorant about, like, I just wasn't, paying attention that one moment or whatever, and just dismiss it. It's a lot harder when you're getting suffocated. It's a lot harder when you're curled up in the fetal when you're getting in the curled up in the fetal position, and you still have 10 more minutes, which could seem like an eternity on this substance. It's a lot harder to ignore. I think it just you're so confronted with this reality, and I think in little instances it just doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah, so if he did not reflect on that, and I
Yeah.
so this is my other inference. Anybody who would do that, and I know people are gonna listen to this and be like, "He's making way too much out of this," but I don't think I am.
I agree with you. I don't think you are.
Anybody who would not look down at the card, I can almost guarantee you has not cultivated the disposition, the
Mhm.
habit of reflecting on their behaviors, like, kinda like, I don't mean globally in terms of, like, murdering someone, or at the extreme ends, but they have to have not led not a reflective life for them to
I
be
know.
in that position in the first place. And so it just made me think, like, so okay, so then I said, so he said, "No, no." He basically said no, and I said, "No, no, I'm I'm telling you, I think that's my card." And I learned a little trick. I'm a little hesitant to show people this online, but I learned a little trick. You can just do this. I don't I don't want to go into the trick too much, but you can there are certain ways you can get someone's attention very quickly, because I didn't want him to walk out of the store with my card, and he looks at the card, and then he just handed it to me and walked away. And I just thought to myself, this could be an incredible moment. Like, I would love to have said to that guy, but I just didn't want a confrontational relationship. If you are wrong about this, what else are you wrong about? Like, what other things, like, and how do you cultivate those habits to be less wrong more often?
Yeah. Yeah. And but if you had a moment just to be like, let's sit down and talk about this, and he was willing, which who knows, probably I'm sure that guy wouldn't be. But if he was willing, then you could have that conversation and keep asking questions, and he'll probably get really frustrated. I mean, that's essentially right. I mean, that's what they killed Socrates for asking questions.
Yeah,
Corrupting the youth, ironically, as a school teacher, you know. Um, but I think that you would have to go down that route of continuously asking questions, and he would get very
correct.
quickly to an I don't know. He would just say, I don't know. Do you want to know? Do you want to look further in this?
Exactly. Do you wanna
Yeah.
know, do you value truth? Do you value what's true? So
Yeah.
you know how I don't go there anymore, I just shop at the because I live in the middle of nowhere, but I used to shop sometimes on rare occasion at the new seasons in Whole Foods. I mix those 2 up all the time, but,
Mhm.
like, I don't know, they must train people to be friendly or something. So, like, or to talk to you, "How's your day? How you doing?" It's totally the opposite of going to Fred Meyer's or Safeway. You just walk in, nobody says anything to you. They look
Yeah.
like they're just, like, ready to be done with their shift. So I walked in, and this woman, and excuse me, I was checking out, and this woman was like, she's kind of buffed, and she said, "Oh, how's it going? How's your day?" And she starts a conversation with me, and I said, "Well, you look like you're in really good shape." And anyway, the conversation turned to whether or not y- you what was the right form of squatting, and whether or not you
Mm.
should look up when
Okay.
you squat, which is old school thinking. And basically, I asked her to put the belief on a scale. And I also asked her to put the belief on a scale that your knees should not be over your toes when you squat. And she said she was 100% sure that when you squatted, that you should look up. So you could even see what looking up does. Oh, and by the way, when you're in the guard, when you're in someone else's guard, somebody said this. I'll don't want. I'm trying to make this a semi-family show, but unless you want to have sex with me, you shouldn't be looking at me. And when you look up, then your spine is aligned, so it's more difficult for them to break your posture. Anyway,
Mhm.
so she said it was 100%. And I said, okay, so if you're wrong about that, would you be willing to consider the fact that you are wrong about other beliefs? Beliefs that you hold with an extraordinarily high degree of confidence, say 100%. And interestingly, she said, No, because I'm not wrong about that. And I tried to drill down a little more, but she wouldn't even entertain the hypothetical that it was possible that she should be wrong about where she were looking at squats. Now, again, the reason I'm mentioning this at all is because that's not a skill set, that's a disposition. And so, how do we help people develop those dispositions in which you'd say, well, yeah, I guess one, I don't know. So, is the ability to entertain a hypothetical at the higher ends of the mean IQ or at the higher ends of the IQ spectrum? Is that, let's just say that that's th- not the ability to do it, but the willingness to entertain a hypothetical that has to be a disposition. So, we how do we help people develop as educators, develop those dispositions that lead them to develop their critical thinking skills? That's the question. And you gave a great answer,
Mhm.
like which is my number one go-to, which is modeling. What else would it be?
Okay, I think okay, so she was buff. So I'm sure a big part of her I've been doing this podcast for a while. You and I had a
Mm,
great podcast. I've been doing this podcast for a while. It's on viewpoint diversity. That's the cylinder radio, the different sides of it.
yeah, yeah.
And I've had 9 different transgender people on the podcast. Okay. Identity matters a lot. That's something that I've discovered talking to people from different perspectives. Identity matters a lot. I think I'm assuming that a big part of this woman's identity is her ability to lift weights. Okay. So she's going to have certainty or attached to identity because if she's wrong about something that's directly connected to her identity, then her sense of self is in jeopardy and
Exactly.
she can't question her sense of self because it's too disruptive. The way the brain works. I mean, my understanding of neuroscience is like when your identity is challenged, it's the same as like a bear barreling down on you to threaten your physical safety. So what I believe in is taking away with this woman is you don't do something that's associated with her identity. You do something that she doesn't have an emotional attachment to. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when she doesn't have an emotional attachment to something, then you can get her to go into the hypotheticals and then realize that she might be wrong about something. Then you ease your way closer and closer and closer to the things that are more deeply rooted in her sense of self.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This falls under the umbrella of my nonprofit, National Progress Alliance. Your generous donations keep us going and help fuel content like this. We truly appreciate your support. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.